Good evening, everybody at home and those in the room. Welcome to the November 4th meeting of the Dairy Conservation Commission. Prior to standing for the pledge, I'll ask that all phones on the board and in the audience are silent to respect the pledge as we stand before this election day for this meeting, or election day tomorrow. All rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
In case of emergency this evening, please do not use the elevators. There are stairs in the back. We have an emergency exit here up in the front. Member of the commission can help you if needed. I will start with an introduction of commission members, starting to my left.
Bob Sproul.
Eileen Chabot, good evening.
Rick Bazanga.
Paul Dion, good evening.
Rick Metz.
Bob Boonster, good evening.
And I'm the chair, James Degnan. Rick, I'll have you sit for Grace this evening.
Okay.
Who could not make it. She is in Wellesley tonight. Okay, I did pass out a few sets of the minutes from the last meeting. I unfortunately could not be here, but I believe I captured the gist of the content of the meeting. I'll give a few moments for review, and then I'll entertain a motion for approval of minutes from 10/7/2024.
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Rick motions to approve the minutes. Eileen Chabot seconds. Any commentary?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstentions.
Abstain.
I will abstain with Mr. Metz.
No, I won't, so we still have a quorum.
Correct. Okay. Going into correspondence, we have a few notices this evening. Excuse me. We have a note from New Hampshire DES. This is for 58 Drew Road, tax map 7, lot 84-3. This is a detailed letter to the landowner with a restoration plan approval for a prior deficiency as noted by DES. There is 21 different requirements for this plan, and there will be additional commentary with the owner and DES. We will let that one flow through DES as it has been. We have another notice from DES. This is from 26 Beaver Lake Avenue, tax map 51, lot 60. This is a note of a alleged violation that is under investigation from DES. Again, if we are asked to step in and provide commentary, we will. It's important to remember, alleged does not mean that there has been any specific act done, just under investigation. Last notice from DES. This is a forestry statutory permit by notification. This means, again, the commission doesn't need to be involved, but it is an FYI to the commission. This is for Dairy Tax Map 12, Lot 113. This is over as part of the Ferdinando properties on the other side of town.
That has been successfully completed.
Excellent.
They cleared a few acres of
Up past where they keep the cows,
nice
right?
white pines, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a couple of other pieces of business correspondence that I'd like to handle up front before we get into some discussion this evening. We did receive an invoice from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions for our 2025 membership dues. There has been no increase in dues this year. It is $825. Typically, we pay this out of the administrative account. I'll entertain a motion to pay this invoice to the New Hampshire ACC for $825 for our 2025 dues out of the admin account.
So moved.
Second.
I'm going to take Rick as the second on that motion.
Okay.
I'm going to take Eileen as the second on that motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And motion carries for that invoice. We also have a second invoice. This is for a personal registration to the 2024 New Hampshire ACC Conference. This is for reimbursement of $60 for registration fees to Eileen Chabot. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Rick motions. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'm going to say Paul was the loudest second on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Fantastic. So we took care of those specific issues. Just a note from the last meeting, there was an approval on an expense for plexiglass. Did that receipt get back? Do you still have that with you, or does somebody else have that? I think I have to submit for that. We can take it offline.
Yeah, I don't know if I actually had my hand on it, did I?
Yeah,
Yeah, because it was approved at the tail end of the
we
meeting.
made a motion to pay
No, I
it.
know we approved it, I don't think I had my hand on the
Did
actual
you
receipt,
actually
though.
have the
Oh.
receipt?
I think it was, I think I worked through your email on that.
Okay, I might have scanned it too. We'll double check that. We'll make sure we're clear.
We
Okay.
did approve it, though. We approved it.
Perfect,
We approved
okay. I'll make sure to get it to Sheila. Okay, so, business to follow up on. First, I want to note some questions from the last meeting prior to getting to the discussion. So Dairy Fest was brought up. We did not have a booth at Dairy Fest. We had a last-minute Hail Mary thrown our way via email from the committee for a $100 spot. Typically, as a nonprofit, we haven't paid to be part of the committee. It was very last minute, meaning like the Friday before Dairy Fest kicked off. And there was really no feasible way to effectively pull that off. Moving forward, that will be up to the board to partner on earlier. I don't know what's changed. I think the year prior, things kind of, with the rain out or cancellation or whatever happened the year prior, there was a little bit of a different flow to Dairy Fest this year. We were never engaged via email up until we asked Owen to kind of facilitate some conversation. So I believe that may change in the future. It'll be up to this board to determine. On the recording secretary, we did get clarity on what we were gonna offer. So connected to that correspondence was Rick. What has come back and what was discussed previously, just to level set the commission, was 10 hours a month for the recording secretary to be done in person and/or from web recording. That would be the drafting of minutes, finalization of minutes, filing of minutes. Based on internal numbers and role that we have, that position for us would be at $19.38 per hour out of the administrative account with no benefits tied to that. That's purely an hourly rate. Again, that's up to 10 hours. We formally need to approve the $19.38 per hour for that to officially push forward with Catherine St. Ledger and the rest of the team internally. So,
I'll move to approve the rate of $19.38 for our soon-to-be hired recording secretary.
I'll second it.
okay, Rick seconds. Or Rick motions, Paul Dion seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Perfect. We're gonna pause on the other position discussion until we get through some more of our business items as we move forward. I'm gonna move into the actual agendized items. The first piece up for discussion is a particular parcel up for discussion, which is across from the parking area at Broadview. Right now, it has a existing curb cut, but you would not know that it's really there. It's kind of grown up as some scrub brush, and at one point, it was a better-looking parcel. We've been approached by DPW to have a conversation regarding that particular piece that we do own and is part of the Broadview area. The proposal would be essentially for DPW to access the existing curb cut, go in and clear and open up that space from some of the scrub brush. It would afford us the opportunity potentially to continue to kind of turn those into garden beds and/or other things in the future, but it also allows the town to bring clean leaves from Forest Acres or Forest Hill Cemetery down right to Broadview Gardens for them to be kind of stored there and turned over time as potential compost for gardeners and/or other. I sent a aerial snippet of the area in question. With that said, this is a discussion that, I'd like to open up to the board to say, one, would we like to entertain this particular use of that area that right now is not being utilized at all, really? And two, discuss the opportunity there for what's its intended use is planned to be, which is, again, turning some leaves for compost over time. With that said, if this were to be discussed and approved, I would welcome Vice Chair Bazanga to carry the conversation forward with the commission to say, hey, if there's restrictions or certain things or signage or other things that are needed to make sure that the area is protected from illegal dumping and/or other, that would be up for discussion. But because we are at the fall season and the desire is to kind of start working potentially with DPW to clear an opening there and make a spot, I brought it to the commission hopefully for some discussion and a vote tonight. So what I'd like to do is start by asking, does anybody have any thoughts or commentary around this proposed endeavor with DPW?
Yes, Chairman, I think we should probably establish some conditions, right? So we need to, like Eileen, what Eileen said, can anyone else go in there? So establish some,
Yeah.
at least an outline of what we'll agree to, and I don't think it has to be very elaborate, just, we okay it based on these following conditions. And one of the ones I'd like to get the pulse of the commission on would be, could we establish a time frame, a lease, if you will? Like, we could say that we will approve it for 5 years. That way, if we find that it's not working our way, not working out for us, we could terminate that lease. And I don't, and 5 years is the number I'm throwing out. I don't, how long does it take to compost leaves?
Couple of years, but 5 years is probably a good benchmark.
Yeah, so as long as we put an end date, and then as part of that 5 years, maybe we can put in that we'll grant a 5-year lease of the property with 5-year renewals from that date. So we'll have an opportunity after 5 years to revisit it, and,
Yes, we'd have a 5-year agreement.
yeah, 5-year agreement, and that way if it goes south and it's not what we expected it to be, we can say, hey, thanks, but we're gonna go in a different direction.
If you're gonna do that, though, you need to establish a drop dead that we have to notify them if we decide we're not gonna allow them to use it anymore.
So 5 years with a
it's
6-month.
6 months, I would say.
6 months, 6-month notice.
Where do they currently take it, to
They
the
bring it down.
transfer
to-
station?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to that mulch pile that's there?
And it
right.
is a mess, he's right, I mean,
Yeah, I
Alan-
did go take a look. It's
Yeah.
pretty full down there as is
yeah.
already.
Yeah,
We
and it's
wanna make
also
sure
mixed
that-
with leaf
That our
clippings.
land doesn't become a mess,
Yeah.
too.
Well, I spoke,
So-
Alan called me on an unrelated issue,
Yeah.
and we discussed, he brought this up and we discussed it. He assured me it would be nothing but clean leaves, no trash.
from the cemetery specifically.
Yeah, nobody else would be allowed to dump there. It wouldn't be any grass clippings, which I mentioned to him, because you've got fertilizer, you've got
Right.
chemicals.
Mhm.
Could we put conditions like that into our lease?
I think we absolutely need to,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Make
we
sure
absolutely
that-
need to, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what happens is the agreement that we have with Alan, who's leaving,
Let's say DPW.
yeah, all right, let's,
say-
with
let's
the
leverage
current
the term
On
commissioner.
behalf of
DPW.
DPW.
Yeah, let's say
Correct.
it's the current commissioner has a strategy for it, then the next person in that may think of expanded uses. So I think we should
Right,
address,
so we need to
expanded
address
uses now,
those
yeah.
in the lease, like, with conditions.
so are we comfortable doing that tonight, putting the list and
Yeah,
ratifying
because
it?
he'd like to move forward.
Okay. All right, so
sooner
my,
rather than-
my two things would be a 5-year lease with a 6-month, with a 6-month renewal period of 6-month renewal notification
Prior
Okay.
to
prior to
expiration.
renewing, and the renewals can be additional 5-year increments, and then that it, I'm not so concerned about it being limited to leaves from the cemetery, because I think other things can go there. Like when they mowed the Shepherd Field, I mean, that would be an appropriate place to put
I
that
think
stuff.
they usually just leave that there. My concern is that people start bringing in
Yeah.
grass
own
clippings.
No,
and
no
we
good,
got-
no
I
good.
don't
Good,
know that
yeah.
I'd want to bring stuff from other, like the Shepherd property.
Yeah, their
because-
intent is just to bring it
Leaves.
from the
Yeah.
From the
cemetery.
cemetery.
Because, I mean, you got to be careful when you're moving something from one property to another, because you could be bringing, invasives and
Well,
other
Shepherd
things
has
that
not
are
leaves on the curb,
undesirable.
so yes, it would
So
be
if
leaves
we-
only.
If we're gonna do leaves only from the cemetery, then we probably should have language in there that says, approved for leaves only from the cemetery. Anything other than that would require commission approval. So if they wanna
Yeah.
do something else,
Yep.
they have to come before us and say, hey, we wanna bring this stuff over there. So that
And I
would,
think we ought to ask if there could be some sort of gate or.
yeah, and that was gonna be my second point, that
Area.
it's gotta be, it needs to be secured and only assessed by the DPW. Those are my points. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could I add to the gated and locks access, signage to be posted, not for no illegal
Town of
dumping?
Derry use only?
Yeah. And we'll make sure that kind of gets vetted. Eventually, again, if that compost is fresh and can be utilized for the gardens, and it is for the betterment of the
Right,
public,
right.
that would be a benefit for folks to go in there and get access to it.
Correct.
But the dumping portion of it needs to be ironed out with this agreement. Make sense?
Perfect.
Mr. Boonstra?
So, given that part of the discussion was the potential for expanding the garden plots over there, and given that we're gonna put together an agreement that might get renewed every 5 years, it might be worthwhile, even though we have no current plans to expand the garden plots, it might be worth having a provision in there that we could negotiate space for a garden plot over on that, over on that side of the road.
Well, it's our space, so
Yeah,
they're
so-
I
kind of
understand,
negotiating.
but the map
back.
that I saw gave them sort of blanket access to that entire red area over there. and I'm
Yeah.
thinking
Oh, I
that-
just kind of outlined where it
Well,
was on the aerial.
Maybe
Yes.
we want to
So
reserve.
whatever the
part
agreement's
of
gonna
it.
say, I think we ought to have the, and, it may be obvious, but, we ought to have the right to negotiate some open space.
Can I make a suggestion that a member of the commission partner with DPW to determine the area to be cleared and opened?
Sure, I'd do that.
Does that make sense? That way, on the day of this discussion of who, what, when, where, we have sightlines to what is planned, and then also the total scale. Does that help solve that, Bob? And then a report back to the commission on total footprint.
Right.
Okay.
Hey, Jim,
Mr. Spurl,
how are they gonna pick it up, with blowers and, big leaf sucker, or
I
are they
believe that's what they
mowing
do.
and doing it with lawnmowers?
No, I believe they suck it up and it chops it as they vacuum them.
Okay.
to go over a quick list of conditions, if I may, before I open up final questions prior to a vote. So we would be open to a motion that would approve this partnership with DPW to open up that property for clean leaf storage only from the Forest Hill Cemetery. Any other material must be approved by the commission prior to going on the property. Agreement timeframe of 5 years, that was thrown out, with a 6-month renewal notice to DPW
For additional 5-year periods.
for additional, let's say for additional,
We say for additional periods, because future commission might want to do 10, or they might not.
or
wanna-
shorter, yeah, we don't know,
They
for,
might want
for
some
additional periods.
shorter If it doesn't look appropriate.
Approval would include gated and locked access by DPW and signage, no illegal dumping, town use only. And a commissioner to be present for approval of the footprint of where this opening is going to be at this time in an effort to preserve larger space for potential garden plots and/or other, which is in our scope of control. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Just a friendly amendment on the commissioner.
Yes, sir?
A commissioner or the commission's liaison, I think you should put in there, because we're hoping to have someone.
Commissioner or commission liaison,
Yeah, because we're hoping that our,
correct?
yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Do we want to put any provision in if Paul sets out a boundary for them? There's going to be 3 strikes and they're out if they overstep their area, or are we going to work with them?
I see this being a clearing and really 1 or 2 time, maybe bringing material over there in a season. Perhaps what we could do, at least on this go-round, is be directly involved on the clearing footprint and the visual after. And then moving forward, we probably
Just check on them.
just need to have a checks and balances. Again, this is meant to be, Paul, can you give us just a brief history before we vote on the uses of Broadview during its acquisition and why this type of use is acceptable?
Yeah, we purchased the property in 1999. It was there was an approved plan for 27 house lots. And the intent of the property is to use it for agricultural purposes and educational spot for environmental,
Education.
schooling, education, thank you. I stumble on my own words.
Fantastic. And just in case you're at home and you're not aware, the area that we are referring to, if you pull into the main Broadview parking lot, it's nothing in front of your car when you pull in.
Right.
It's directly what's behind you that is currently
Yeah.
unutilized.
It's
So just-
approximately 4 acres, give or take. And when we purchased the place, and Phil Ferdinando restored the farm fields, nothing was done back there. About 15 years after we had it, we contracted with an individual who cleared the lot, and now it's turning into more than shrub now. So
Yeah.
I think this is good timing.
Okay. I'm going to give my shot at this. Oh,
Just
Eileen, one more.
thing, I just want to make it clear in the lease too, that it's only to be used by the DPW and that we're not conferring permission for DPW to allow landscapers to empty in there.
Yeah, That's probably good. Alan was clear about that.
I
but
think
have
we've
it-
But
got
we should
that, but
put that in
I'll
writing. We
highlight
should make
that.
that very clear.
Right.
I'll highlight that only. I'll highlight that here. Okay, I'm gonna try my best.
You could
Okay.
probably put when we're requesting approval for anything other than the leaves, you could probably put in that provision that we would have to prove any third-party use. And that would alleviate, if Parks and Rec wanted to use it or some other town agency. So they can't offer it to a third party?
Okay. Let me see if I get this right.
I think it looks good.
Ready? I will entertain a motion to approve DPW to partner with the Dairy Conservation Commission and open the parcel with an existing curb cut across from the Broadview Farm parking lot for clean leaf storage from the Forest Hill Cemetery for a working period and agreement of 5 years with a 6-month renewal notice for additional periods in the future. It will be for Town of Derry DPW use only. Any additional third-party use from a town department would need to come before the commission for approval. The parcel will be gated and locked with access by Town of Derry DPW and signage to be present, not for commercial use, not for any other dumping, so no illegal dumping signage would be present. A commissioner is to be present for the approved footprint of the first opening and ensure that we understand the full scope of the cut and where the storage will be. And that will be a commissioner or commissioner's liaison, once that future position is hired for, is able to monitor and be part of this conversation.
Did we, friendly amendment, Mr. Chairman?
Mm-hmm.
Was there something in there about anything other than the leaves from the cemetery would require approval by the commission?
And any material other than leaves from the Forest Hill Cemetery will need approval from the commission.
Right, that's very important. That's
I'll
really
move that motion.
I'll second it.
Rick Bezanga motions. Paul Dion seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Business is flying. Okay. Conversation about Broadview mowing happened at the last meeting, but there were some discussion points. I apologize, I couldn't be here again. So we had the contractor that has helped us till both the Broadview Gardens, and he mowed Broadview in 2023, was when he mowed it the last time. Had told us when he mowed it in 2023, late in the season, that it may be a good idea for us to mow it again the following year, but we typically go every other. That was the information we previously got from Matt Tar at UNH, that every other is pretty standard. It happened to be that, we had a lapse between the first cut from Field of Dreams and Noah coming in to cut, so that it kind of left the door open to if the commission felt like we should mow it. And that's why I said, hey, go out and take a look at the property, tell me your thoughts, let me know what you think. And unfortunately, I couldn't be at the last meeting. I took a look. I'm not for or against, so I'll open it up for the discussion. If we feel like we want to stick with the 2 years, that would mean we would need to get Noah on the calendar now for the October mow for 2025, and let him know that we are ready to contract that work if that price is going to be consistent, which it has been, so.
I think that's what we agreed on last meeting.
Yeah, and I
We
actually,
tabled it, actually.
No, we tabled it.
On the minutes, it was tabled, yeah.
Tabled it,
I actually
yeah.
met with Matt Tower in a Covets workshop last week out in Sullivan, New Hampshire. And we discussed this briefly, and he, again, recommended wait another year.
Okay,
And he did the same thing when we did the bird walk out there with the
With the
bird
grassland
course through
birds and-
UNH.
yeah.
Yeah.
okay. So, Paul, if you've been out there recently, did they change the mowing pattern? Because we did ask Parks and Rec
Yes.
to not do so many
Yes.
wiggle paths and
Yes.
keep so they
Yeah,
have.
because the front area is wide enough, and it's actually sustaining a few families of bobolinks. The
Okay.
back area is too narrow, so they wouldn't nest there anyhow. And Matt said that the little labyrinth of paths in the back were fine. But the
Okay.
ones in the front, just to have along the edges and
Okay.
not cutting through. And
So do we need a formal motion to say that we don't want to cut? I don't believe we do. I think if the board kind of has had some conversation here and we're not interested in mowing, we could leave it at that.
Yeah, I think we could just wait till next year.
Or we could make a motion now to agree to cut it next October.
Or if you said we needed to contract with him now for next year, maybe we should
Yeah.
do a motion to that effect.
Well, I'd be curious to see, again, prices may change.
Yeah.
I don't know that he would
right. Are we
agree.
really ready to take that vote tonight if we don't have the
Well, I
prices
don't think
for
we'd have
next
to
year?
expend any money, we could just get
Say
in touch with him
we
and
would want to
schedule
work,
it.
yeah, okay.
So I'll make a motion that we do our next mowing at Broadview in the October timeframe of 2025 and engage a contractor at that time.
Second.
Do we want to, when we broach that topic, do we want to kind of hint that this is an every 2-year scenario?
I don't think so, because, I think there could be an occasion if we had an incredibly wet summer that there may be
Okay.
a reason to do it more than one, every 2
Okay,
years.
we'll leave it as is.
Yeah.
So Rick has a motion on the table, do we have a second?
Second.
Paul seconds, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we have 2 more big topics of business to run through, 726, making great time.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Could we push the Broadview Gardens change to after other business? Because I have something I want to suggest on that. So go to other business first and then do the Broadview Gardens last.
I don't really have any other business.
The land manager.
Well, I want to kind of tee off this change with the Y, which is the Broadview Garden change. Is that okay?
Yeah, I want the discussion on this, though, before we do the Broadview Garden change. Some discussion on this.
On that? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll insert a component to the land manager position that currently we had some discussion on this, drafted copy. Right now, we put it back up to Dave. Dave took a peek at it. It's as written, 20 hours, no benefits. We're dealing with the compensation piece of it now in terms of how to compensate for it.
Yeah, so
Commentary on that from Rick.
Just the last part of that is the compensation, but the reason why I wanted to bring it up before we brought up the gardens is there's 2 things there that we don't have listed as part of the duties. And one of the ones I'd like to add is that person would be responsible for the gardens. And then the second thing I'd like to add is that that person would be responsible with coordinating with things like Dairy Fest and any other public outreach type projects where Conservation Commission needs to be showing. We could maybe add that into that, and then the most recent change that.
And we can go into the why in the garden in a moment, but so Rick's, on the original draft that we had reviewed as a group, Rick is proposing adding verbiage for Broadview Garden Management,
Broadview Garden
manager,
Manager or facilitator,
yep, and also the community outreach, so
community outreach,
responsible for Dairy Fest
and any other community outreach.
and any other community outreach, such as Walk with a Cop and other things we
Right.
do, yep.
And then thirdly, the things we talked about tonight, which would be the supervision of the new compost area at Broadview Farm.
Wow.
Do we have any opposition to those 3 changes?
Mm-mm.
And again, the Broadview Farm compost pile is maybe a once or twice check in a year. I don't think
Right.
that's a very heavy lift, but if you're at the gardens anyways,
Yeah, to walk
They're
over
adjacent
there,
to
make
each
sure there's
other.
not trash, things like that.
makes sense.
Just- Yeah.
Any opposition to those 3 things being added into the description? No discussion. All right, so, Rick, do you want to formalize that motion so I can make the change to this?
Yeah, so, and I think, could we also encumber the board now? Because we really don't have a say in the rate. The rate is a rate that the town has a rate schedule.
Right.
And it's based on the work. So we could today, because Dave says we don't need council approval for this, because as long as we have it in our budget, we can do it. So we could add these responsibilities now and approve the project so Dave can move it forward. So we could do that all tonight and get that and put that to bed.
So how many hours a week again, could you clarify?
It's 20 hours a
20
month.
hours.
20 hours a month?
20 a month, yeah.
Wow.
And as a garden manager, you have to remember, it's responsible for the signups
Yeah.
of the plots, where they are, where they're going, It's coordinating with Noah to come out and till the garden at the right time, right? Which is, again, that's a one-time action phone call, go back and review. And then at the end of the year, make sure the garden's broken down, report if the pump's broken or anything like that, and stake the
How
plots.
about staking out the plots? That's
Correct.
a
Yeah.
big responsibility.
And that's a learning curve, and I will say
Yeah.
that this year, I supported the staking with Will and Dennis Wiley, and many other folks from the garden community did come out and help. And so I think, again, the idea of this garden stewardship passing on, one, I think I would love to see, long-term, it be its own board of directors.
Right.
With this position overseeing it, and
Right.
have it be self-sustaining, which I believe we can do.
Yeah, I think the garden club could be much more involved in it.
Yeah.
And I think also long-term, we may not even want to have it tilled every year.
Right.
Most community gardens are not tilled every year. Each landowner does it. And
Does
there's,
their own tilling,
you know, and with all the talk of the science of microsia and how soil is like a cake and it's got layers.
Right.
Every time you turn it up, you destroy the microsia, which actually inhibits the growth of the plants, increases more weeds. Susan and I recently were up in Burlington, Vermont, and it was a huge community garden, and these people had their own plots, some of them for 30 years. And they set up fences, and they have little personal things in there to actually take care of it themselves.
Yeah, the rotation, I think, is more important than rotating the crops is probably more important than turning them. So if that's okay, I will formulate that motion.
So I will entertain a motion to add the following duties to the description: to manage the community garden at Broadview Farm, to be responsible for community outreach such as Dairy Fest and the Walk with a Cop program. Am I missing anything else on there? And to be responsible for the compost at Broadview.
So the motion will have those points and direct the town manager to proceed in the advertising and hiring process.
Rick motions. Oh,
Second.
hold on. Yep.
So my
Let's
question is
just do
about
a
the
second
20
for
hours a month.
discussion.
Second for Paul, discussion.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
My question is about the 20 hours a month. You know, we've put trail maintenance and a bunch of stuff in there, and I think we don't, as we sit here right now, know whether it's gonna be 5 hours a week or 10 hours a week or whatever. Is there some provision in this that if in coordination with the town, if we decide that a bigger number is necessary, that we could do that?
Well, so the first year it's coming out of our budget. So as the report outs happen from
Actually-
this position, for the first year, we may get some,
Yeah.
we may have some insights. And I think we talked about that earlier of, we didn't know where that gas
Right
pedal's
now,
gonna
every
land.
year, sorry to interrupt,
please
but every year is coming out of our budget. Every year is coming, we're funding this project, at the moment, we're
Correct.
funding it in perpetuity.
Yeah.
Bob,
Will we
I-
have enough money to
It may
do that
change
every
with
year?
history, but.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, we do.
Vermont
Will we
Land
be funded
Management,
for it
isn't
every year to?
it can come out of either, yeah, land
Huh?
management or administrative.
Will we have enough long-term to keep funding it? Like especially if we're not getting new luck into our fund and such like that?
We have enough for 2 years right now, and that's all that Dave was concerned about, is having it for 2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
And then we're going to revisit it after 2 years, perhaps?
Yep.
Okay.
So, Bob, your question about the 20 hours, there's little urgency in a lot of this work. So we can schedule the stuff so it fits into that 20-hour box. You know, if we're gonna dedicate, 4 hours to trail maintenance a month, we'll do it that way, whatever it does. But we need to keep it below 20 hours. There's a multitude of reasons why it has to stay below 20 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think we can facilitate that. I don't think, because we're going from 0
Right,
to 20.
right.
So we have some, we can get some work done.
So I just for clarity, the motion tonight is for these two items to be added, 3 items: garden manager, Dairy Fest community outreach, and manage the compost.
And to move
And to
it
push
forward.
it forward.
Yeah, and move it forward.
Okay, we have a motion by Rick on the table, second on the table from Paul. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
Excellent.
so that should move forward pretty swiftly. So talking about the Broadview changes, obviously, we just had some discussion about the position. Will Lowenthal, former member of the commission, longtime member of the commission and garden manager, has done a fantastic job for the past couple of years managing the garden. cannot say enough to Will's stewardship of the garden. I think it really truthfully thrived under his leadership. He took a lot of phone calls, did a lot of the coordinating, put a lot of blood, sweat, and hopefully no tears into the garden. And I know the garden's better for him. So Will, if you're listening tonight, please know how much we appreciated the last few years of your stewardship, both on the commission and off. So a small round of applause for Will. We do miss him. Will's a solid guy.
Thank you, Will.
And if he's not
Thank you, Will,
watching,
for all
I
your
will
talent and
reinforce it
treasure and
tomorrow at the
time.
polls.
Yes, and if Will is
Yeah.
not watching, Paul will double down on that message. With that said, one, it's really good that this position is getting off the ground now while it can before we get to garden season next year, so we have a chance to kind of refine that onboarding process. It was a little bit web-based via email, and then it was also kind of via phone. Will is doing a lot by phone. So that'll have to be cleaned up in terms of how registrations and plots, and we'll have to have a download from Will of kind of how the process was managed in terms of, we know what the digital plot we know what the plot numbers are, but we
Right.
need to get the download of that for the next person coming in, right? So that's number one.
And Paul, maybe you can have the discussion tomorrow with Will, is when we bring this person in, would he be willing to donate 2 hours of his time to help him
Get a
along?
garden co-op basis.
Just to get him going.
I think Will may still plan to have a plot there.
They're perfect.
So, and I don't want to speak for Will, maybe not, but I think that at least an onboarding of the information even before then to us would be fantastic, right? So we'll work on that. Will did a lot of other things at Broadview as well, kind of kept eyes on the property. He cleaned the bird boxes this year that were put out there by the Girl Scouts. And he's just been an overall great steward of the property. And I'm gonna miss that part of it, but we have a new position coming in to help us run those. What I would like to see the commission do is push that garden, as I said, to be self-sustaining, to create a board of directors so they have some consistency in it. There's some ownership of it by a group of individuals. The work is spread. And of course, everything comes through the commission for approval as it should. And I'd like to see us move in that direction long-term.
Yeah, and I'll offer to do a little research on other community gardens and maybe reach out to the extension service and
Perfect. Love it.
find out what the other footprints are for these gardens, because we're not the only one in the state. And
No,
as I said, the one in Burlington, Vermont was unbelievable. And there's some in Boston that have been on the emerald necklace since World War II.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Charlestown one in Boston's pretty magical.
Yeah, and the one up by, not too far from the Museum of Fine Arts and the Stewart Gardner Museum and all up in Boylston area.
and I
That's
would
on the-
have to assume one person isn't in charge of the garden experience. So we can learn through others, which
Right.
is fantastic. Okay, so the only other piece of news I have for other business is, one, I will be saying my goodbyes to the commission, like really this time, after many years of saying, I don't really have time to do this for another round, and I kept doing it for another round. I did hold on this last year. As some of you know, we were working through the Ball Farm acquisition, which was a fantastic piece of property to preserve for conservation. I wanted to see that work through. That work kind of has gone through, and we've moved on from that. So I will leave that as my crown jewel.
Crowning
But
jewel, yeah.
I will say, in the absence of time that I gave to the commission, I did delay some of the progress, and that was never my intention. But I have to be honest with you, I had a heck of a summer with my boys, and I wouldn't trade those moments at all for the world.
Nor you should. Family comes first.
Never. And, you know, with all things, there comes a season. And so, you know, with the kids growing up and getting more involved in sports, and my daughter's at a barn over here, and you got two parents trying to go 7 directions, and then on top of work and all the other changes in life, it came time to really say, hey, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of a break and let the progress really accelerate with the group here that hopefully we kind of continue to push that envelope. I know this guy's over here ready to drive the bus, and I'm happy for it. But we got to move forward. These major things could have been done in 3 months' time, and I kind of had them go 6 months' time. So, in the sense of humility, one, I want to say I'm leaving in part because I want to see this progress faster, and two, because you know, my boys are on a travel team now, and I'm going to be gone every Monday night anyways for the foreseeable future. So you won't see me on TV, but you will see me on the properties. I will be out and about. It's been great serving the community for as long as I have. It's been over, I mean, I said it's been over 10 for sure.
I was the one that dragged you into this.
And he took a break and came back, so what does
And
that
thank
tell you?
goodness you
I'm
did,
sure I'll
Paul.
come back at some point.
He dragged me into it, the guy next to you.
And that's,
Sorry.
so I will say, it's been pleasure to work for the town and to be a volunteer. And as I say, every year at the report back to the council, we need more volunteers. We need more folks to help things move. Maybe not everybody that has 3 kids and travels for work across the entire New England region, but maybe yes, maybe you've got the capacity. And so I'll ask you to please step up and join these great folks on the Conservation Board or other boards in town, and help out. Because really, I live here, I did this for my kids, I did it for the community I live in, and hopefully long-term we'll come back to. And at the end of the day, I am proud of the work that we've done here over the last 10, although by my count, I think it might be 12, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah.
So, 12 years. So this will be my sign-off. I will get the minutes done for this final meeting. Rick will coordinate on some of the transfer stuff of what's kind of open-ended. And I know Charlie's not here tonight, but what I really do want to see happen for you is that we have a dairy conservation that's run through the town email server versus the independent providers. One, chair, vice chair can be on the same account. The current dairy conservation likely is going to have to be decommissioned because it's on my personal email account, and I don't know how to break that from my personal one, so I got to figure that one out. But I'd like to see us just go straight to a server for the town.
Okay.
That makes sense. So we'll probably need to push Charlie on that. In the interim, we have a couple of reporting pieces to clean up, but I'll be signing off here as my last meeting tonight, and so I want to thank everybody on this board, and even those in attendance. I got some nice notes from Eileen offline. Thank you, Eileen, and
Thank you,
Grace and
James.
others.
It's
So
been outstanding.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jim. Good work.
Thank you, Jim.
Time's up. Only a little early.
You'll be back. You'll be back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Everybody always comes back.
I'm sure I
Everybody
will be
always comes
back
back.
when my kids maybe can drive themselves everywhere. I've
right.
got a couple more years to go.
It won't be too long.
So with that, at 7:42, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Paul seconds, all's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you, folks.
Nice work, James.
No, you guys got it from here, for a while.